And welcome to This Week in the Tech Boy podcast. There's so much to get into today. There's so much tech news that's coming out of things today. Perplexity released a new AI browser comment. I tested it out over a couple of days. In fact, some of this was edited by some of the news segments came from Perplexity's app and from the browser itself. I do like their news feed, but is it really worth switching to? I'm not sure about that. The Google Pixel 10 series came out, and we're going to get into that and what's inside of the Google Pixel series. And I think the dumbest deal for Google just dropped, and I think it's utterly ridiculous. So let's talk about that right now. So as you guys know, Perplexity offered to buy Google Chrome for $34.2 billion. Or was it million? Something like that. Anyway, Perplexity offered to buy Chrome. Of course, Google didn't respond to that. I would have said, hey, why would you respond to this ridiculous offer? Chrome is worth a lot more than that here. But I mean, at least they offered, some money, because at least they offered, like capital or something like that. Ecosia, for those of you who do not know, is the search engine that tries to save the environment by forcing you to use it. And if you use it 30 times, then they'll plant a tree or something like that. And they're not even a real search engine. They're just a wrapper for Bing, like all of the search engines are. So all the non-Google search engines, so like Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, of course, Bing, are all basically Bing wrappers. No one really makes their own search engines. And for the people that do, they're not very good search engines at all. Okay, it's like the alt search engines, the alt tech sphere. As you guys know, I've come out against the alt tech sphere, not because I don't like their message, but just because their technology is trash. Anyway, Ecosia wants to go save the environment with Chrome. Of course, TechCrunch thinks this is not a bad idea. I don't know why they think that. I mean, bro, I don't understand why Google would even think about taking this deal. This makes zero sense. Let's get into this article here. So they're going to take a quote-unquote 10-year stewardship of Google Chrome's browser instead of forcing Google to sell its competitor. And apparently this deal, 6% of the profits, or $1 trillion, according to the CEO, would be donated to the environment. Yes, trillions and trillions of dollars would just be sent off to save and plant some trees somewhere, someplace, to go stop, quote-unquote, climate change. And yes, Perplexity offered $34.5 billion for Chrome, which is insane. Ecosia believes that Chrome is on track to generate $1 trillion over the next decade, and an auction group priced it in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And they want 60% of control for the revenue to go to, some climate projects and whatever, something like that. What does Google get out of this deal? Like what? What exactly does Google get out of this deal? Other than, I guess, feeling good that they saved a tree somewhere, someplace. Why would Google take this deal? And I think that, does the DOJ even have a job? Seriously, do they have a job? I just recently heard that they are trying to force them to stop having Google as the default search engine on iPhones devices. Get jobs, people. Get jobs, please. I do not understand. Get a life. And this is even so much funnier because news just broke that Gemini and Apple might be integrating. Do you know why this is happening? Not because the DOJ forced them to, not because Perplexity is trying to buy Chrome. It's just because Google is the best. Now, I'm not really sure that Gemini is the best. I think Gemini is the best at coding. Gemini is the best at image generation technology, except for in here. Gemini is what we use for the Ava Harper, the Instagram account. It's not really the best at spy stories. It had this story. I had to generate me a spy story. It was like, oh, you can catch kids cheating by, flying a drone over their head, which doesn't even make any sense. Even though I did see this book, it just came out. I haven't read the book yet, but from the synopsis, it said there's a kid, he's sick, and he hacks into the school security cameras and uses a drone to catch kids. So, the more you know. Maybe they stole that idea from me, who stole that idea from Gemini. Anyway, here you have this headline. Right as the DOJ is trying to force Google to decouple from Apple, which doesn't even make any sense, Apple explores using Google Gemini AI to power revamps Siri. And that is the power of, the free market, right? That is how capitalism, works, right? I don't understand why the DOJ does not understand this. What? The DOJ is trying to, separate Chrome, which makes zero sense. And, oh my gosh, AI is gay. Gabriel, get a life, please. Your one job, your one life cannot be, oh, this is gay. That is gay. This is gay. No one cares. Okay, you cannot be like, oh, we're gonna ban cell phones from teens, and all the teens are gonna like it, and we're all gonna have them sit at home, and we're not even gonna have a TV. We're just gonna have a forum, and they're gonna go to church, and they're gonna like it. Okay, that's not a good brand. I'm sorry, that's not a brand. Look, you may think it's gay, but look, it's gonna make millions and millions, trillions and trillions of dollars. And I mean, look, you even see Perplexity here, who has their own browser comment. It's not that good. I mean, it's okay. It's just a Chrome wrapper with some AI features built in. It's nothing new. It's like Edge, okay? And like I was saying, the people who benefit from this is Edge, and Microsoft, who I do definitely remember the DOJ hated back in the 90s. Now they're doing their work for them. DOJ, get jobs, do something, please. Do anything else than trying to sue Google. This is, it's a real sad day when I'm agreeing with Christy Marie Lamond on a podcast episode. That is a sad day. That is a sad day. I've had way too much agreement with Christy Marie today. It's not good for business. It's not good for revenue. So yes, AI is not gay. It is a tool. She is right, of course, about all of that. Now, speaking about the DOJ and Google and socialism or something like that, the United States has entered into a deal with Intel where we have 10% of it. What do you guys think? I have no comment on that as of now. I'll have one on Monday. But what do you guys think? Should the United States have invested in Intel? What do you guys think? Do you think socialism? Think it's not? At least means that they're doing something other than bothering Google. I mean, at least it means that the government can do other things other than try to force Google to sell stuff for no good reason. Like, why would Google just give over Chrome to you? That makes zero sense. I mean, if Google is forced to sell Chrome, I'd rather go to Perplexity, which hopefully doesn't go to Apple. They're trying to get that. I'd rather Chrome go to Perplexity and they can actually work on that. I'd rather go to a tree planting company. Okay. I'd rather go to Perplexity, who actually cares about stuff and isn't like, oh, the environment, oh, climate change, oh, we need to plant a tree to save it. And the only way we're going to do that is if we use a basement tier bottom browser Ecosia. Ecosia is trash. Okay, we can have a demonstration of that right now, but later. But we can talk about the Google Pixel 10 series, and Google finally did it. You did it, Google. You did it. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. You did it, Google. This is the Google Pixel 10 series, and you know why I'm saying you did it? Because last year, when the Google Pixel 9 app released, I released an article called, quote, Google is not Apple. With Google, of course, the Pixel 9 only had 2 cameras, no telephoto zoom camera. And finally, Google matches up with Samsung to become one of the second major manufacturers to include a tri-camera setup on its phones, on its baseline phone with some... now leaves the iPhone 16 all by itself. Of course, the iPhone 16 is going to do pretty well. The pink iPhone 16 that every single girl has to use. Oh my gosh, it's like the standard phone. As you guys know, Isabella Maria DeLuca switched from an iPhone 13 Pro to the pink iPhone 16 regular, downgrading her camera but upgrading her processor. Of course, all these other people in real life also have the iPhone 16. Let me think of someone who has one. No one you would know. I don't think MI6 or AI8 had a iPhone 16, but the iPhone 16 is pretty popular. But finally we get these colors, pink, baby blue. But let's look over at the tech specs of the Google Pixel. So I mean, interesting colors here. We lose the pink, but all the people who wanted the pink phone, they either got it last year from the Pixel, which is probably like 0.0001%, or they all got the pink iPhone 16. So that's neither here nor there. 6.3 inch extra display. You have your 120 hertz display, 200 nits brightness. So all super, basic stuff here. Now the Pixel, like the XL series, the larger series, it is actually pretty interesting. It has this new feature where it uses AI to enhance zoom, so it goes up to 100 times zoom. I like to see a comparison between of course, the Google Pixel zoom and my S24 Ultra zoom and the S25 Ultra's zoom as well. Maybe even with the S24 Ultra, because it has the dedicated 10 times zoom camera. The S25 Ultra cuts that and puts a 3 times and a 5 times zoom camera, kind of merges it that with the rest of it as well. That's what the Pixel series does. All right. But we have a video. I have headphones in today, so we can watch this video of watching, I guess, a recap of what's all in the new Google Pixel 10 series of devices. Because this website it's pretty blank. It doesn't really tell you what the cool features that you'll be getting as well. But these are all the phones in the lineup: the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, the Pixel 10 Pro, which is a bigger phone. They all have much bigger batteries. Pixel 10 Pro. XL has the biggest battery of them all. This is the biggest phone. So, and the Pixel 10 is the smaller phone. And of course, they have the Pixel 9A, which came out a few months ago, but this is their budget phone as well. Look at it. It's a baby budget phone. It's like so nice and smooth. Kind of looks like an egg, a baby egg. All right, let's go turn it over to the cameras to Mr. Who's the Boss. And he went and did a little recap of the Google Pixel series of devices. What do you guys think in chat think about the Google Pixel series of devices? Let's go.
I've just tested the new Google Pixel 10 phones, and I'm a little bit worried by what I've seen. So there's 4 new devices: the $799 Pixel 10, the $999 Pixel 10 Pro, the $1199 10 Pro XL, and then finally the $1799 Pixel 10 Pro Fold.
Which I do think that's interesting. Samsung has bumped up the prices to $2,000 for the full series of devices, and Google stuck with $1,800. So that's nice on Google's part.
It really feels like Google is doubling down here on what makes the Pixel different, but that's both in a good way and a bad way. The good is that in classic Google fashion, there are a sprinkle of new software features here that actually do feel just a little bit magical. Like
that's nice. I would like to know how often these features, if they're going to come to Pixel 9 or if they're going to come to the Pixel 8 series devices, because in our monologue for today, we're going to be talking about the internet and things of that nature, and all these phones have smartphones peaked, and this is a really important question for those of you who care about smartphones, not for those of us who want to go live in the woods and never see a smartphone again, except when you're on a smartphone watching this right now. But anyway, that's a really interesting question for those of us who get
Camera Coach. So when you're about to take a photo on a Pixel 10, you can tap here and your phone will analyze your scene and your subject and guide you towards taking your final shot. It does need internet, but when you...
Which, that might be a problem. What if you're trying to take a picture and you have a slow connection, maybe 3G speed connection, or maybe... who knows how much data it will use, what kind of data cap you have. Also, it did look like it was kind of a little bit slow. When people are taking the pictures, especially, this probably won't be in Snapchat, but, when people are taking the pictures, you want them to be fast. They're not going to stand there and pose for everything, etc. It's going to be fast-paced stuff of that nature.
You use it, you can kind of see why. Because first, it suggests a number of different directions that you could go in with your photo. And these, by the way, are not always real images. Your phone will literally be AI generating expressions and poses on this person in your frame that haven't even happened yet.
That's actually, pretty cool, in my opinion, there.
Fabricated just to inspire ideas while you're shooting. And once you decide on one you like, it opens up this multi-step process that involves suggestions on all kinds of things. Everything from which mode and which zoom level to use to how you should step to the side to avoid shadows being cast on what you're shooting. It even told me to try pulling a different face while I was in the shot. Would I use it? No, probably not.
I'd like to see, how this compares to, like a professional photographer. By professional, I mean like a 17-year-old girl who, has been on Instagram since she was 12, versus, this versus, just some random person who maybe is on their first or second smartphone.
Photos are very subjective, and I don't really trust that my phone's AI has a better idea of what I want to shoot than I do. But could I see this helping my parents to take better photos? And then also start
like someone like that, like your parents, or maybe, someone who hasn't taken photos right now. Maybe like a 15-year-old who just got their first phone.
Teach them what makes those better photos. Actually, yeah. Magic Q is another pretty instant hit. It means the AI on these phones can pop up relevant information when it thinks you need it. And you'll know it's doing...
That's a pretty smart feature. Makes your phone more like a pocket assistant. It's kind of like brings everything to the smart phase. Like its own like smart screen, smart slate. The only problem with that is like, what if you're trying to hide information just as it pops up as you're coming in? That might be a bit of a problem. But as opposed for that, I do believe that the Google Pixel has its own like guest mode and a separate you can have multiple user accounts. You can't have that on Samsung. So it is a pretty fair trade-off, and I do like this feature as well. If you're not engaging in high security activities like I am.
Doing it when you see these colorful little outlines around things. So let's say, for example, someone asks you when you're coming home from a trip. Your phone can retrieve your flight details from your email and put them right in front of you so you can just tap to send them immediately. Which, if you think about what it would take to do that manually, that is saving you quite a bit of just messing around inside your apps. Or even if you're calling, say, a restaurant, your phone should be able to pick up which restaurant you're calling. And
oh yeah, one other thing about this, other than the new feature here, is that apparently this is new. This new dialer here, and I think this is just a built-in Google dialer, if I'm not mistaken. So I can test this out, because the app, you can have that app.
And actually surface up details that are relevant, like for example, what time the reservation is that you've currently booked. In practice, the feature is pretty limited right now. There's a lot of asterisks about what kinds of situations it does and doesn't work in, but what an insane idea. It really makes you feel like Google's attention is focused on fixing real-life user issues and making the phone experience feel proactive, not just reactive. And then it's also cool to see just how much the company has squeezed out of their zoom camera with ProRes.
Right, here we go. The ProRes zoom. Of course, this is only on the ultra, expensive Lex series devices. So I think it's on the Pro and the XL, and of course the Fold.
Zoom. So Google Pixels for a while now have had super.
That is an ugly phone. Oh my gosh, look at this. Look at that notch and the bezel here. I mean, it's almost as big as the Gulf of America.
Which, when you capture, can take lots of not so great quality shots and merge them together to make one pretty great looking shot at either 20 times or 30 times zoom. And this is what the base Pixel 10 still has. It can do 20 times. But this year, for just the Pro phones, Google is also sprinkling a little bit of AI into the mix to let you go all the way to 100 times. And this is not
which probably is not going to be as good as Samsung, honestly.
Something that we haven't seen before from other phones, but it's executed well. The results look polished, pretty crispy for a 100 times zoom photo, and less AI-like than I was expecting, given how much AI is clearly being used. And then I also like the fact that if you then decide afterwards that you actually want nothing to do with the AI, you'll also get the unprocessed version along with it. There's a couple of...
And that's nice. I did read something about how, they're trying to take a picture of a car, and it just kind of like estimated what it thought the car would be like. So, interesting things coming out of camera technology.
Of entirely new Google apps like Ask Photos, which is yet another chatbot that you can ask to now edit your photos in whatever way that you want. It sounds like an interesting idea, but I do feel like whether or not this is useful completely hinges on how much it gets you and your preferences. Because I feel
yeah, that is true.
Like actually having to spell out how much extra brightness I want to add to an image, or exactly which people I want to get rid of in the background, it sounds to me like exhausting.
No, I actually think this is going to be a pretty neat feature. I've always wanted to, it's kind of like brings in the sci-fi aesthetic. You can edit, with voice if you just hold down. You can use voice commands, or you can type it in. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat, honestly, in my opinion. And it's coming to Google Photos across all devices, so I will be able to test that out as well.
Way more effort than it's worth. And then secondly is Pixel Journal, which is basically Google's equivalent to the Apple Journal app that we got.
I wonder how secure that is. Like, if it leaked or whatever.
A few years ago, but it's for Europe and in English only, apparently.
Why Europe? It's just like, why?
And then it's all packaged together with some improvements to the hardware on these phones. Every Pixel 10 generation phone has a bigger battery than last gen, and this is great with all.
I mean, look at these right here: 4,970 milliamp hours on the Pixel 10 Pro, 4,870 on the Pixel. Pixel 10, which is pretty neat. If it's optimized well, it probably will beat out Samsung's phones, because the Samsung S24 has 4,000 milliamp hour battery and has a 6.2 inch screen. It's a 6.3. This is almost 1,000 milliamp hours higher. Of course, the Google Pixel Pro XL 5,200 milliamp hour batteries. That might compete a little bit with the S25 Ultras, though it's not as high as it could be if you think about it, because 5,200 milliamp hours versus 5,000 on Samsung's, it's kind of about the same. And on the Fold, of course, it is a smaller battery, it is a smaller phone, but it does fold out to a tablet-sized screen. So there is that. So it might be the worst battery of it all.
Four of these phones very closely clustered around that healthy 5,000 milliamp hour capacity mark. There's better speakers, especially on the Pros, brighter screens, and Qi 2 wireless charging with
And this is nice because it has MagSafe.
which I have just one thing to say about. Finally.
Finally, the dog.
MagSafe for Android is here. The magnetic connection is every bit as strong as it is on my iPhone, and that's going to give all 4 of these phones full compatibility with any MagSafe charger and a lot of MagSafe accessories. And then,
except for, of course, the cases.
For some reason, only on the 10 Pro XL, this phone is using the fastest wireless charging standard available. Like the,
that makes sense. That's fair. You need to have some features that are, of course, only available for the best of the best, top of the top.
Very latest version of this, which is Qi 2.2. So it can charge with a zippy 25 watts of power wirelessly. And then the actual devices themselves, while very similar looking to last year's phones, they're well built and classy. They feel like proper flagships in the hand, which is not something I've always been able to say about Google Pixel phones.
There was that one phone that they made out of fabric, so we've come a long way.
Kind of interesting color options too, including this ultramarine blue on the base Pixel 10 that they say is inspired by the blue color from the first Pixel, but I would be very surprised if this didn't have something to do with the fact that it makes the thing look almost identical to an iPhone 16.
And that's the iPhone 16, the famous iPhone 16 that's used by every teen girl in the United States of America.
But yeah, this feels like a pretty solid, if not slightly safe upgrade to last year's phones. So what is there to complain about? Well, first up, while most of the new software features seem at least like they are heading in the right direction, one of the key ones, Voice Translate, worked pretty terribly in my experience. And it wasn't for lack of trying. The idea is that you should be able to have a real-time phone call with someone who is talking another language. And your phone will...
Which is nice, so it'd be great if you're talking to someone in another country.
Then live
or in Texas
translate so that you can both hear each other's voices in your own language. But I had 5 different phone calls while using this, and for one reason or another, 4 of those 5 phone calls it completely butchered in some pretty...
Hey, 20% of the way good. 20%. That's fine. Just kidding. That's horrible.
Major way. Just persistent misunderstandings. Like we say, I want to go to the Louvre. It thinks I want to go to the loo. Or like, for another example. What do you think of the weather today?
It's pretty slow if you think about it.
Sorry, das habe ich jetzt nicht richtig verstanden. Kannst du das bitte nochmal sagen? Sorry, I don't really understand that now. You can please say it again.
And bear in mind, this is what was...
That's crazy. Also, it seems like it does cloning on device, which is really funny because I saw this thing on Antform, which is a Disney teen sitcom, which that's all we want. I saw this article that Disney was having a hard time, attracting boys because they made Star Wars bad or something like that. I don't know. It's another marketing fail. Anyway, and I was like, just all we need to do is bring back the teen sitcoms, like the great television shows, like Good Luck Charlie, 99 out of 100% based, and Antform, which is so far so good, perfect. Every episode that I've seen has been great. And one of the features they had on the phone was that the phone could clone a voice and then pretend something else. It had a voice cloning technology on it as well. So maybe it's coming into the new age as well. Also had some sort of technology that allowed it to give its own alibi, which you could probably do that with ChatGPT if you did enough tweaking. It also had technology where the phones exploded because of a virus that was uploaded inside of them. So the pages that was there we go. And it also had what else did it have? Oh, 3D holographic calling, something like that in it. Oh, there was one thing in it where Lexi, I'm trying to imitate her accent. Lexi Reed, who's like one of the popular kids in the show. She they did a face ranking thing of like math or whatever, and they said she was a 3.6. Unfortunately for the show, I used the face ranking application on the ToolWiz photo application, downloaded the image off the internet, and she was a 9.1. So imagine being off by 3. So the Z phone, which actually based off the Samsung Galaxy S3, which is really funny because they called it the Z Phone 4, and then they released the Z Phone 5 like 2 episodes later, which then exploded because of the virus uploaded in them. The Z Phone, it's pretty technologically advanced, but there are some problems, I guess, within the mathematical models. That wasn't a computer, though. So there's that, unfortunately, for Lexi in that.
was happening when we were on the phone with someone who understood both German and English, so could kind of recover it when it went off track. There's a lot more room for it to go very wrong when you're talking to someone who, say, only spoke German. I will say it does a good job of keeping your accent. So if I say, "Hey, how are you?" in English, they will hear the German translation of that, but as if it was me saying it. And also bear in mind, this testing
Yeah, there we go.
happened about 3 weeks before launch, so there is some time for it to improve. But I don't think this is much of an excuse, because I mean, this is the version of the product that media has been specifically invited to test. And then the other thing with Google phones, right, is in my experience, they never really feel finished. And that's exactly the same case here too. It is fantastic that you get 7 years of software updates and new features via Google's Pixel drops, but it does feel like Google uses this as a bit of a veil. It makes them happy to release things in their very simple, very beta stages, like Magic Queue. It makes them feel comfortable telling you how, if a feature doesn't work well, like voice translate, well, that's just because you're testing it early and that it'll get better later. Or that key features are coming to some regions before others, if your region gets them at all, like the Journal app. And it allows...
I mean, it's kind of funny that they only gave it to Europe. Usually they do the United States, which makes sense.
allows Google to reduce their accountability for things feeling unpolished. You know, like the camera app when you're zooming in? It's been laggy on all previous Pixel phones. Doesn't look...
That's not good. I haven't had much time, hands-on with Pixels. I was hands-on with one, I think, was it this week, but I couldn't really play with the camera because it was locked down at the store, so I didn't really get to play around with that.
Like it's any better here. Or portrait mode. Google has tumbled from genuinely king of the hill to, frankly, C tier when it comes to portraits in recent years. And so this
And
year
I wonder if it's just because of the quality of the devices that we have now, or if it's just like the lenses that just got worse. I'm not really sure. Google usually uses the same lens over and over and over again. It's just that their processing in the early days of the Pixel phones was just so good that they could get away with that.
they've bumped the resolution. This new Pixel 10 Pro can take 50 megapixel portraits, which is great, but they haven't actually fixed the issue, which is their edge detection. This phone still managed to chop off not one, but both my ears. And that's the one
Wait,
time
let me see. Zoom in hand here, people.
it worked. The first 2 times we tried it, it bugged out and got me completely out of focus. But here's the crux of it.
It was
All of
fine
this
to me. Maybe it's, what is this video loaded in? 720p. Maybe it's because of that.
stuff, the odd feature being buggy, bits and pieces coming soon, or features limited to specific areas, it's nitpicky. And it wouldn't matter nearly as much if the hardware of the phones was stellar. The issue with Pixel phones, and I would argue more so with the Pixel 10s than ever before, is that the software features haven't, because the hardware is pretty lacking for what you're paying. The biggest thing is...
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen anything about this, but they don't have their own DeX, which is really sad. I know that there's some sort of Android desktop mode that's coming soon, but it's like in beta.
performance. Google's previous few flagship phones...
Oh yeah, I was seeing these screenshots. I'm not sure if they're true, but they were testing them out between the Google Pixel 10 series of devices, of course, using the same benchmarks of some like 4-year-old iPhone 12, and the iPhone 12 was winning. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. I don't care. I don't care. Android phones should always beat an iPhone.
With their Google Tensor chips have not been at all close to their peers. Like last year, phones with Snapdragon chips had about a
That's crushed. Absolutely destroyed. Goodness gracious.
60% performance lead over Google phones. 60%. That makes the Pixels effectively mid-rangers. And so, this time around we have a new chip, the Tensor G5, and these are, of course, Google's fastest ever Pixel devices. I mean, credit where credit's due, it does seem a solid amount better in terms of AI and also CPU performance. They say about 34% quicker than last year. And this chip is also now being made by TSMC instead of Samsung for the first time, which makes me expect some efficiency improvements. Expect this to pair very well with the slightly bigger batteries this time around for just
I hope so.
Much better endurance. But Google needed like an 80% performance improvement on this chip to start closing the gap with Snapdragon. This G5 is just maintaining it. And the fact that they didn't even once mention the graphics performance of this Tensor G5 makes it seem pretty likely that it is falling even further behind the competition.
But counterpoint here is that no one's really going to notice that. Like, no one. Do you know why? Because no one makes apps for anything like this. Okay, no one scrolling Instagram is going to be like, oh, I'm scrolling my Instagram reels and really going to feel that graphics performance hit. Okay, this phone in my drawer here, it costs like $30. It could probably hit that well enough.
When it comes to gaming prowess. But that's not all. I find it absolutely crazy that the Pixel 10 and 10 Pro start at 128 gigabytes of storage still. Pixel 10, okay.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Some people were calling him out saying that he didn't say anything about that for the iPhone. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter because the iPhone should not have 128 gigabytes of storage. If iPhones want to be trash, they can be trash. But Android, you have to be better. I'm holding you to a higher standard.
Fine, whatever. But the $999 Pro, I mean, 128 gigabytes stopped being Pro about 5 years ago. That's about
Maybe 6. I mean, 128 gigabytes. My phone's almost at 512, so
80 gigabytes of actual space for your music, photos, videos. For
I don't know why people count music anymore. Like, people just stream music, so that shit doesn't really count. I mean, it is hard to even find places where you can, buy and download MP3s and MP4 videos like legally. Okay, I'm not talking about those illegal streams. I don't access those.
maybe the next 4 years of your use once you factor in the size of the operating system and your very, very basic starter apps. Plus, while it is good that the 10 Pro XL at least does start with 256 gigs, they're just copying what the iPhone does now, where you're not actually getting more storage for the money, you just can't buy the lower storage model anymore, which makes this phone start at $100 more than last year's. They called the Pixel 10 Pro's cameras award-winning in our briefing, which my first reaction was like, that's very strange. This product isn't even out yet. But then I realized the reason they can say that is because it is basically identical to the cameras on the Pixel 9 Pro.
Which is, of course, what the phones that they've always done. That's always what they've done.
The image stabilization is a little better, but every single camera sensor is the same. And if we're being honest, now on the smaller side, especially considering the top tier pricing. And just to reiterate, Google's camera tuning used to be so far ahead of other companies that it didn't matter. But because Google's software processing lead isn't what it used to be, you notice the hardware more. And then for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, while it's awesome that it has an IP68 water and dust protection rating, for the first time on a foldable, by the way, the actual body of the phone, the bezels on...
That is nice, but I mean, look at this thing. What are you trying to do? Cut bread? Butter? You can make a sandwich with this phone. You take out the bread, cut it there with that edge there, cut out your cheese, cut out your butter. I mean, and then you can just all smash it together. I mean, heck, it could be its own little panini press. You play some high-intensive game on it. It gets super hot. You cut up the bread. You cut up the cheese. You put it on there. You fold it down. Boom. It's smoking hot, sizzling hot. What is wrong with this phone? Why does it look like this? It looks like that dang, what was that company? It's like it's some company that made a phone. It looked like it was inside of a box. I think it was HTC or something like that. It's some box-looking phone that costs like $599. Okay, it was a trash phone. Goodness gracious, you can make a panini with this phone.
On the front, the thickness of the thing, they're not in line with what other companies are offering now, especially when you factor in the slower chip and the fact that the thing's cameras are almost the same as a Pixel 10, a $799 phone. Thankfully, what does feel a lot more...
All right, and that's the end of that video right there. Now, there's this internet controversy. We're going to skip down to the bottom here as well of my podcast notes. Let me just get those pulled up. There's this internet controversy here. And, I've always wanted to start this channel, maybe have my own little, what's trending show. Let's see what's trending on social media. Apparently, I did my own Instagram Reels research, and what's trending on social media is being within the ages of, I'm going to guess, okay, I'm not a great edge guesser, but I'm going to say between being a girl in between the ages of 18 to 20. So until we can hire one to work for the company and be the face of the company, that's not going to work out for us as well. But, and this really leads into, Instagram, which has the biggest gold mine of data known to the internet. And I'm pretty sure that the NSA has a tool like this, which is why they're my favorite spy agency, the NSA, great agency. But civilians, as mere civilians, law-abiding civilians who do not want to have to break into NSA to access a tool like this, why does Instagram search suck so badly? Think about this. It is the greatest gold mine of data known to man. Okay, I was doing this, there's this person who has a whole bunch of connections, a whole bunch of people that I know, well, online know. And I was scrolling through the profiles, and I'm sending messages to each of these people so that I can, maybe they can promote the channel or something like that. Maybe to promote the software, the high school election software, get it tested out, something like that. It's not really relevant. Anyway, so I'm sending out the messages here, and I'm trying to do a test. This person here, she has 1,000 something followers here, has like I don't know, 10 pictures on the profile. So I do circular search or Google Lens search or something like that. Nothing comes up. Reverse search does not work on Instagram unless you're like a mega account. And if you want to do more filtered, granulated search, why does this not exist yet? I mean, people put the locations in their bios. They put in, Instagram comments. They put in stuff in their bios. They put in, hashtags and all things like that. And the only thing you can search by is maybe name and hashtag. You used to be able to type in name, hashtag, location, age range or something like that, and you'll be able to also be able to reverse search Instagram pictures like this. This would be the greatest OSINT tool of all time, just to be able to scan through all of Instagram and search it and reverse search it. And it would also be a great tool to help if you were to just package this up to help find friends. You can be like, okay, male, 17, these interests around this location, boom. Instead of having to scroll through the billions and billions of Instagram accounts, you could scroll through, a few thousand. I don't know why Instagram has not made a tool like that as well. And the reason this is the problem is I am not going to sit on Instagram Reels and watch the same Reels that I was counting. Scroll. About 7 to 8 out of 10 of the Reels was just some girl dancing or some girl doing something or something like that. I cannot find some random person off the street here and get them to be in a video. That's only happened once. We cannot replicate that strategy. Okay, it's not like this is random people sitting around on the street that they're just going to be on videos. That strategy's dead here. Okay, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Which means you have to turn to Instagram with the billions and billions of people who are on this platform. How am I supposed to, compete with that? And I wanted to just, start a show where we can talk about the trends of today, right? This is, and all the social media trends and what's happening online. That'd be cool. What are the kids up to? What are the kids into? I'm not going to sit there and scroll Instagram multiple times. There needs to be some sort of software for this as well. And Perplexity, I asked Perplexity. Perplexity was not very helpful on that end as well. But speaking of trends and what's trending, this thing trended so hard that, even I was knew about it. It's the Cracker Barrel thing. And let me tell you this. Cracker Barrel changed their logo. Okay. That is the normal response of every normal person on planet Earth. Okay. All this crying and weeping and gnashing of teeth over the dang Cracker Barrel logo is insane. Okay, none of y'all have ever thought about Cracker Barrel for the past 5 years. Okay, none of you, not a single one of you have ever thought about the Cracker Barrel logo. Not one. None of you. None of you have been thinking. Got up every morning, stared up at the Cracker Barrel logo on your wall, got on your knees and prayed to it or something like that. That is how people are acting. Like, okay, fine, you don't like the Cracker Barrel logo, fine, whatever. Do you really think that people are going to boycott Cracker Barrel because they changed their logo to be more modern? No one cares. No one cares. Everyone's like, if people are like, oh, people in flyover country were, are mad about this. No, they're not. You think they have bigger problems. Like, oh, I don't know, their water pipe broke. Or I don't know, maybe the child got a bad grade. There is infinite more problems than anything about the dang Cracker Barrel logo. No one cares about the Cracker Barrel logo. They could change the Cracker Barrel logo to a stop sign kicking a squirrel across a fence and no one would care. Okay, no one is loyal to the Cracker Barrel logo. And I want to find more interesting trends on Instagram that would appeal to teens that people actually care about. You can ask 1 million people in the city of Houston, what do you think about the Cracker Barrel logo? No one's going to care. Not one of them. Not one of them. All of this is performative. It must have been a slow news day. I have no idea why this has been going on for 2 freaking days. 2 days. This is almost as fake as the security girls dancing like, oh my goodness, the left hates this. No, they don't. What? This happens every single year. Since the invention of social media, they tape videos like that. And guess what? No one cares. Oh my goodness, we're dancing. Well, other than Christy Lamont, no one cares that they're dancing in yellow crop tops or whatever. No one cares. No one. Okay, look, this is my test. Is anyone dying? No, then no one cares. Okay, it's over. No one cares that they're dancing in crop tops and doing some I don't know some dance, some upbeat dance, and that's okay. The only people who care would be them and the people who could stand the profit off of this. So like advertisers and me. Okay, those are the only people who care. And the only people who care about the Cracker Barrel logo is nobody. Okay, like there was an article about how Cracker Barrel was doing some things with some TikTokers or something like that, and they're getting slammed for that. Yeah, sure. In 5 days. I'm pretty sure Cracker Barrel. Let's see. Cracker Barrel. Let's see what the stock price is. Like the only people who care about the Cracker Barrel thing right now is the Cracker Barrel stock owners because it's bad for them as well. Okay, so they took a dip from this is not financial advice. They took a dip from about like 58 to 51, and then they're back up to 56. So they'll be back by Monday. Okay, they'll be back by Monday. No one actually cares about Cracker Barrel. Okay, you people acting like you pledge allegiance to the flag of Cracker Barrel for the public for its stance. No one cares about Cracker Barrel. I'm sorry. it's just a restaurant. Goodness gracious. Oh, they changed the inside. Okay, fine, but like you don't have to like die about that. Okay. Claude leads and I found a new website, which is great. I always like finding new websites. Claude leads the artificial intelligence race, which is horrible. That is a horrible outlook for AI in the enterprise. And that is genuinely heartbreaking that Claude is leading the AI race for enterprise. Do you know why? Because Claude is the most annoying chatbot on planet Earth. Here's why. Claude, it has all these quote unquote principles that it has to abide by, and they only give you like 5 or maybe 6 free chats a day. And I have to spend all those things trying to, jailbreak and get around Claude trying to get me to tell me something. Look, your computer, okay? You tell me what I tell you what to do when you do it, okay? Like ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini, they usually can do something like that. Photo Leap was a little bit iffy. Didn't want to generate certain images as well, but we just switched over to Gemini. It's fine, except for the hair generation. It's trash. The hair generation, it leaves a lot to be desired. But Claude, I can tell Claude to do something like, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't, go along with my content policies, and I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. Womp. That's, that's not good for AI. That's not good. It has a 32% market share, surprising OpenAI, 25%, and Google, 20%. It is good at coding, I will say that. But the problem with that is the coding. It's not the best. It's good, but you only get a few messages, so it's not it's not the best at coding. In my opinion. Here we are. All right, Chipotle and Zipline form Chipotle to provide aerial food delivery. Let's check into this article right here, which is, I think that's pretty interesting. This is the next generation of technology, and it's pretty cool. Maybe they can have some of the stuff. I saw something like this in the military, where they had aerial drones that could go out and combat stuff like that. So now we have aerial food delivery from Chipotle. It's probably going to be insanely expensive, though. I mean, you're flying a bag of Chipotle across the city. But it's testing them out in the greater Dallas area. I don't know how much it costs. And also, they're testing this out in Texas, which means one of those drones is going to end up getting shot. I guarantee you, one of those drones is going to die. Okay, that's already. I think it's already happened once, and I think one of these drones is going to die again. So RIP to someone's Chipotle food. It's probably going to die. So sad. All right, now here is our story, and this also comes from TheTechBoy.org and leads into another story here. We need a third network. Okay, the internet is a great thing. In fact, as I said on a podcast episode before, quote, it's time that we return to the methods of communication and information gathering than just, the internet. The internet is great. I'm all for the internet. I'm all for cell phones, but we, of course, need to have a third option. And I was saying this because everything has become so hyper-reliant on the internet. And the internet is just, it's a newish technology, depending on how you define it. If you go back from ARPANET, then yeah, it goes all the way back to 1969. If you define it as in when the World Wide Web opened up, it's only about 30-something years old. And, that's kind of a risky thing, especially since we're losing some older technologies like, regular phones. Like, regular phones barely exist anymore. You don't have copper wiring anymore. You need internet to make a phone call, which means you also need electricity to make a phone call, which seems a little bit risky to me as well. But it's like how it's been integrated into everything as well. I'm all for internet integrating into other things. It's like we need a separate sort of a network here as well. For instance, go onto any website right now. You want to go see a security camera, right? Every security camera will require Wi-Fi. You want some sort of spy bug, they're going to require Wi-Fi. It's going to require GSM, something like that. You want some sort of GPS tracker, same thing for that. It's going to require Wi-Fi. It's going to require having some sort of internet connection, which is really, really, really weird because GPS was invented in the 80s when there was no internet, and you know. I'm assuming that there was some sort of trackers like that. You want to find some sort of UHF tracker or something like that. It's kind of harder to find. Or UHF bug, so also very much harder to find. I mean, in the 50s, the Soviets bugged the White House with this thing called the Thing. So the Soviets used the Thing to bug the White House, and they had it wirelessly transmit to some base station somewhere, and then to agents around the White House, and then they would transmit it back to the USSR. In the 50s, without internet, which of course, the internet was in America. Project B didn't exist yet, so they obviously you could not have access to it as well. You want to build something like the Thing now? I mean, it's super hard to find instructions like that online. It's like, and this also ties into the story of that ESPN and Fox or something like that are all building their own streaming networks. So you can go watch Fox News, Fox Sports on your own streaming service. And ESPN, the cable channel, has also released a new application in which you can watch ESPN, and you can also watch ESPN Shorts as well. So ESPN streaming as well, which is really, really weird because look, now, cable TV is probably going to die, which is really sad because that means that the internet is going to, send TV to us as well, which means what if the internet were to go out? I mean, there's got to be other methods of communication. I mean, think about this. You had fax machines and landline phones, and telex machines and teletype machines, and all these other methods of transmitting information to people. You even had ways to transmit information and control computers without internet. I think back to the 1980s when people were using VSAT terminals and hooked up to computer networks using satellite and stuff like that. And people really weren't using satellite except for SpaceX satellite Starlink, which doesn't really count as satellite because it's still using the internet as a communication method. And even I was asking about something like that on Reddit for a security camera, they were like just basically saying, "Hey, use Starlink, unless you hate Elon Musk, whatever." Which I don't hate him, but people on Reddit hate him because the people on Reddit are crazy. Anyway, it's just like, there needs to be some sort of a third network, right? We have the cell phone network, which doesn't use the internet, and of course we have the internet, and there needs to be something here as well. Like, cable will only send you like one way, radio only sends you one way. There's got to be some sort of other type of radio technology where you can, send and receive messages. Even with the Motorola Talk About walkie-talkies, which we have a video about this, I'm going to show you here on the screen soon. If the Motorola Talk About walkie-talkies, they can send and transmit radio data to walkie-talkie, right? They can send and transmit the data, and they can also send text messages. You still need a phone. You still need an app to transmit some of the data over Bluetooth. I mean, there's got to be some sort of way that we can communicate with each other, that we can get information from each other, that we can connect to computers. That's not super expensive like satellite. That's not only one way like cable or FM or AM radio, and it's not the internet. I mean, there's got to be some sort of third solution. I mean, it cannot be that hard. Anyway, here's one way that it's done, and I was able to intercept some text messages, so I pretended to be my own little NSA agent over from the Motorola Talk About walkie-talkies to the to my computer. Unfortunately, of course, I was not able to decode text messages. I was only able to intercept the traffic. So maybe we can work on something to decode them here. But anyway, I hooked up my computer to a giant radio tower to intercept my Motorola Talk About text messages. I'm going to text my friend to see if he's awake, and the screen below will see if my computer can intercept the message. Let's see if he received the message. Oh, look what he said. Like and subscribe. God bless. Talk to you later. As you can see, the radio traffic was just one big, blue on it right there. So that is the Motorola Talk walkie-talkie right there. All right, let's see what's next on our podcast notes. And maybe I can show you, hopefully it can let me show you on the screen that the thing. All right, anyway, let's get into the story about Fox and ESPN and Disney all launching their own, streaming services as well. So here is from Variety. And, one of the things I like about Flexing, doing some things about doing this research with news like Google.com is that I was able to actually find some news stories that were coming out. It sometimes gets so boring reading the same 3 websites every day. So it's nice to find new ones, magazines and stuff like that. And that's what I was trying to find Instagram for. Like, what are teens really interested in? I mean, I'm sure some of them are interested in dancing and stuff like that. But not really gonna help us out at this point. Anyway, here's the article. So Disney and Fox say that two new sports-heavy streaming services that debut on Thursday aren't going to kill traditional TV, but they might anyway. So it's for people who don't subscribe to cable or satellite. Fox One, which costs $19.99, but I'm not really sure who's going to buy this. Like Fox One offers Fox News and Fox Sports for $19.99, but the people who already watch Fox News already have it on cable. I don't think that they're going to be watching it on a phone. And for Fox Sports, also Fox News and Fox Sports websites, they already allow you to access the content online if you sign in with whatever your TV provider is. So, I mean, I guess this kind of kills Sling. So, death to Sling, I guess, which charge you $40 if you want to access those sports channels and the news channels. So, I guess bye bye Sling, and this will probably last longer than CNN Plus. Because CNN Plus had like some cooking show. And I was reading through my transcripts, was like, I'll download. I was like, why is someone, who turns on CNN to watch cooking? That's not a thing that happens. No one's ever said, hey guys, it's 3:00 in the morning. Let me turn on CNN. I want to see my favorite chef. That's not what anyone's ever said. Also, it's really funny how all these websites and accounts are like, oh, we hate the legacy media, and then just go in and cite them, like they'll show a clip from that and react to it, or they'll literally embed a segment from that or react to it, or not to be. They'll be like, oh, we hate the legacy media, and then they'll be like have entire paragraphs copied from CBS or ABC or whatever. Okay, bro, that's okay. Anyway, if let's just say they said they cut out the media from their website, they wouldn't have a website. They wouldn't have any news agencies, which makes sense. They only have like 10 reporters, and only based in Florida or something. So it's not like they can get around a lot. So maybe you shouldn't hate. We can't hate them enough. We can't hate them enough. Actually, I think you hate them a little bit too much, seeing as if it weren't for them, you wouldn't have a job. So show a little bit of gratitude, just a little bit of gratitude. Yeah, just that's something about there, because they're like, oh, we hate these networks. And you cite the networks in every article. So there's that. Speaking of networks, I want to tell you about this great Microsoft product from 1998. Let me see if I can get you the image of it here from the great website Reddit. All right, here we go. Yes, there it is. It's a great software program from from 1998. It's the software that we call MS Now. So this is you install MSN on your Microsoft computer and you just plug it in, and it's from 1998. Okay, I'm just kidding here, but that's what MSNBC has renamed their cable news network to, MS Now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. Which it kind of looks like a Microsoft product. Wait, MS Now, really? That's what you rebranded to? Also, again, no one cares about this. It might confuse some people who watch the channel on. You're like, well, it sounds like some sort of Microsoft scam product. It's not. So that's MS Now. I thought. I mean, honestly, this is a worse rebrand. I mean, what is this? What is this? This is a worse rebrand than the Cracker Barrel logo rebrand, but no one cared about that. So Cracker Barrel is sacred. Cracker Barrel is sacred and holy, and no one should touch your pancake shop or you'll boycott their logo or something like that. All right. Does anyone have any questions or tech tips? Oh, one more thing before we get into this podcast show. I am a fan of this YouTube feature. They integrated Gemini into the YouTube application. So you just click this button here and you can ask about the video. And it's actually pretty useful. I've integrated it into my own channel. So some of the descriptions you will see from that, you can ask videos about the channel. And you can ask questions about the, channel and things of that nature. So there is that as well. Oh, we have to react to this video. It's ridiculous. Look at the stuff that is trending over on Instagram. I mean, honestly, I do not know how we are supposed to compete if we do not have if we just we gotta bring Ava to life. I mean, that is the only way that we're going to compete with this kind of junk. Like, goodness gracious, like how are we supposed to compete? My number one post is just how are we supposed to compete? I don't know. Wait, what is this? Is this muted? It's muted. There we go.
The coffee, I want the girl. Yeah, me too. All right, boys. Well, why don't you go up to her and see if one of y'all can get her number?
Guy is running around Starbucks and Chick-fil-A and other stores with teddy bears and making noises.
Hey, how you doing today?
And thousands and thousands of people like this. So
I think you're very attractive. I really like to get your number. Bruh. Yeah, me too. Which one of us do you think is more attractive?
I don't even. I just. What? I don't. Well, who came up with this idea? Who came up with this? Seriously, who? Oh, one more thing here before we end the podcast episode. I'm going to talk about. I mean, counterpoint. The counterpoint is that 380,000 people liked it, and what's the view count on this? Let's see. The viewpoint. The view count on this is that doesn't tell you that, but it tells you likes. It's insane. People are commenting saying it's unreal levels of unemployment. I guarantee you, this guy has made more than me and Chrissy combined. Okay, and he does this a lot. So it's either we hire some random girl to work here at the company and take a picture or something. I don't know. Summer from the SSA LTW series. Summer exists as a real person here. Recently posted a picture with a 3-letter comment here. 33 comments responding to it. 248 likes. And it's just a picture of her. So we were doing and her friends here at this school. Like I was saying, let me see what I said here in this quote. Okay, so I even checked this there let me see what I said here. Quote, why are all my friends that don't know I exist going to Sam Houston State? And also, quote, does everyone in there freaking about to go to Sam Houston State University? Or, quote, SHSU 29 cross heart Mason, end quote, good grief. It's an epidemic here. It's an epidemic. And I even tried to get into like the newspaper, which runs off of the site that all the school newspaper sites run off of, SNO sites. And freaking Klein Oak High School has ads enabled on their newspaper, which 2.5 out of 3 people didn't know existed. I asked MI6, I asked someone else, and I asked AI8 about the newspaper, and they were like, "Oh, well, two people said we don't know it existed." How do you have the audacity to sell ads on your newspaper, and you don't even and people into school don't even know that the said newspaper exists? That is sad. That is sad. It ran on the Sam Houston newspaper website ran off of SNO sites. So checked in. They don't sell ads. This is outrageous. How can you have schools that no one even knows whose paper exists trying to sell ads, but an actual school doesn't have ads on it? Like, how are people making money? How? Well, and that's what matters, seeing as if the journalists exist, they can just take a picture and millions and millions of dollars and likes and comments will roll in. I mean that is look, that's got to be our strategy. Either we hire one of them, or we run around a town with 2 stuffed bears and make weird noises with our mouths. Okay, because right now 50 people are listening to this podcast, and by listening I mean they're doing something, and this podcast is putting them to sleep. Okay, these are probably people listening in New York, where it's almost 7 o'clock. Maybe some people listening over in Europe, and they're listening to this and they're going to sleep. Because I wouldn't listen to this podcast if I wasn't talking about it. Anyway, speaking about summer, some people have asked, and by some people I mean me, Summer versus Hazel, right? Um, from the SSA LTW book and web series. Well, actually, Summer doesn't exist in the book because it only covers the first half of the year. As you guys know, Summer came into school on the final half of the year and was targeted by Damien, and I got chased across the school, etc., etc. And while Hazel, she was one of the more popular kids, and then she got targeted by Valerie, and actually got nuked, and then she left at half the year. So what happened? What was the difference? Why did they change? So it's like these are the two blonde girls of the SSA-LTW universe. So let's talk about Summer first. I think the interesting we got to talk about Hazel first. I think the interesting thing with Hazel is that in October SSA was in a, I guess we could say, weaker position than we were in month of February. If you think about this, right, the formation of GCAM hadn't existed yet. So the 11th grade girls, I guess, kind of all exist as one agglomeration, as AI said, the Glory High acclamation. But they probably still have tensions, going against each other. I mean, people don't just get up in the middle of November and just decide to split for no reason, right? That's what the entire SSA LTW series is about, which you guys can go check out about. So you have me, who in SSA, who is a rising power. Of course, we draw in some power from 9th grade. We draw in some power from, 10th grade with Jayla. Of course, you have the JVN constituency, who doesn't exactly exist yet, but there's that. Hazel, who's her own power as well. And, of course, Molly. You have the president. You have Val and Molly, which are kind of one thing, but they kind of can be their own powers. So you got, like, all these powers here. You got, that's like 5 or 6 powers who are all competing for the same, like, 50 kids, right? You're going to have a clash. You're going to have a clash. So you have this one person, Valerie, who's thinking, okay, who are we going to take out right now, right? And of course, SSA, we kind of, pro Hazel as well. We wanted her to become like the next leader or whatever, but that didn't really turn out into a thing. So you have Hazel. You might think, okay, who are we going to take out? Okay, you can't take out Molly because you're allied with Taylor. You can't take out the president. Obviously, you're allied with Taylor. Each other. Okay, so you're going to take out SSA? Yeah, no. Okay, let's all remember every single person who's tried to do that has failed. So that's not going to happen. Okay, it's going to turn into a larger war. Okay, just think about, you're going to target someone who's kind of, unpopular, right? Who's popular but kind of unpopular with the people. Boom, Hazel goes there. And of course, there's a sneak attack, so SSA can't, rally up the military. She doesn't really fight back. She's gone. And also, she's already unpopular. So we're not going to get into like the years-long war of people to, save someone with the 40% approval rating. I'm sorry, that's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. Okay, so it's like, okay. Look, you did this, you nuked her. Okay, now let's stop the bleeding. Let's stop the damage. We're not getting into this war, but we're not going to let you like just move in on Hazel and then move in on the next person and move in on the next person and move in on the next person. That's not how this works. Okay, so you took out one power. That's fine. You still got 4 of them, still competing for attention. Then time goes on. Then you have Summer. All right. Now, why did Summer not fall like Hazel fell? Well, Summer's in GCAM, which is a lot more established than Hazel. Now, GCAM had their own internal problems, but a lot stronger position than Hazel. Like, sure, GCAM might have been a little bit unpopular here and there, but they had a little bit of integration. They had, of course, the dedicated backing of SSA. Of course, they had integration within student council as well. So they were in a little bit more of a stable position. Also, GCAM had just recently gotten out, or was getting out of the GCAM JVN war. Between GCAM and JVN, they were kind of weak right there. So probably not going to be primed for an attack as well. Also, Valerie was not in the school anymore, so we have much less smart rival, much less power hungry rival as well. So you're thinking you have SSA, maybe number 1, then the president, and then you have GCAM and JVN kind of, it's And then, of course, Summer. And I think the interesting thing here is that SSA, instead of being like, okay, look, we protect Hazel or whatever, but, we're not going to be getting into a months-long war. We're like, no, this stops here, right here, and right now. No, you're not getting the number, and we're going to get chased around the woods just in case. For it. That's of course in the article, The Great Chase. You say you're going to get chased around the woods. We'll stand up so much that I'm going to get chased around the woods, and I'm going to go face to face, toe to toe with you right there. And once we did that, he's like, we're not messing with that. We're not getting a war with SSA. No, we are not getting. Summer is not with that. Okay, we are not getting war with SSA over Summer. Sorry, no. That's not what this happened. So it's like, I guess you could say SSA was a lot more aggressive in that war than we were in the war on Hazel. Also, we were dealing with much less smart rivals than last time. So, also, Summer was, within GCAM. So, had the GCAM protection network. Because even if GCAM's popularity, approval percentage ratings went down, to 40%. Mine would never crash below 80%. So that's like a 60% approval rating right there. No matter what they did. Okay, they could go down to 0. They'd be fine. They could be isolated, but they could stave off all attacks just from internal strength and of course with SSA aiding and SSA backing as well. So that's I guess you can say why Hazel didn't last as well as Summer did. But Summer would never come first because of those, of course, external factors. All right. Anyway, God bless. Tech talks to you later.